might be our group.
Okay, that's good. Well, thank you everyone for coming to this. And it's been a great year. So the slideshow that I'm showing you has, we started right at the oldest picture I could find of the church, which was from the 1990s. So you'll see what it looked like then, and then we'll go through when we installed the gardens here, then at the beginning of this year with the grow op in the basement, and then what's happened since then. So that's basically what we put together. Now there's a bit of a lag between the video, the slides, about 2, 3, 4 seconds. So I'm going to wait a bit before I speak to make sure you can see the next slide. And the same with the video. So hopefully Zoom works for all of this. All right, so here's, I got these online, pictures of what it used to look like. So a lot of things are gone, but that's what happens over time. So I figure this was around the 1990s. And then I arrived in 2005. I started doing some gardening, but things really took off around 2010. So this is the installation of the orchard and Hamilton Victory Garden raised beds. And this happened around 2010, it's from what I can tell by my emails to Bill Wilcox. So this is how it all started. This was, you can see down the bottom, fall of 2014. We took out a whole row, 25 feet, no more than that, probably 35 feet of bushes. And we put in this raised bed that you see here. And then in the spring of 2015, we started to install the permaculture teaching garden. So Hamilton Victory Gardens had 5 years already, or 4 years of growing, 5 summers of growing before we started putting in over on this side. So here's some pictures of the work that we did in the spring of 2015. And the way you put in a permaculture beds is you don't, like a lot of people remove the grass, but the grass is the most nutritious thing to keep. So you never remove your grass, you just cut it short. And we made like sandwiches with the sod and, you know, manure, compost, all kinds of stuff in between. And that's what created the beds out there. So this is after 2 weekends of hard labor and a lot of volunteers, the start of the permaculture teaching garden. And so I wanted to put in a woven fence, hedge, I should say. So if you look on the slide on your right, you'll see like a red circle. It's kind of faint. And there's 2 little sticks sticking up. That's the first planting of the woven hedge. That's now probably 7 or 8 feet tall. So that's what we did. We took willow, we just stuck it in the ground, and willow will root very easily. And then we created the hedge. I wanted to screen from the parking lot. You can see the parking lot there. I didn't want to be looking at that in the garden. So this was all the spring of 2015. And then a couple of years later, we put in that new concrete where Toby is sitting. So that was around, I think, 2016 or 27, probably 16. And then we created with some school kids a birdhouse fence. And then that was going to be their gardening area for these kids. So this is basically bare, naked. Nothing's growing yet. So any questions so far? Or? No? Okay. So here we are this year. So this is our grow up in the basement of the church. And I think we had, Julia can, I think we probably had 300 or 400 plants growing down here and upstairs, I guess at the height of our growing. And so we got this shelving unit at Home Depot, I think. The lights we got, Kijiji, different places. Julia set it on a timer so I didn't have to be there to turn it off. So it went on at 6 in the morning, the lights. They went off at 8 o'clock at night. So that was our grow up starting toward the end of February. And it was we learned a lot, what to do, what not to do kind of stuff.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The plants will grow better if they have if they are can imagine that it's sunlight. That's why you have the timers go on and off.
Yes. Even putting plants in a window, if you want to grow annuals, like for production, tomatoes and things, they need an awful lot of light. The basement has no light. So the light bulbs, we did our research and we found that we could use one regular fluorescent tube and one grow light, because the grow lights are much more expensive. So that's how we grew them, was with a combination of a regular fluorescent and a grow light. So that would be the same light bulb you'd have over an aquarium, for example, so that the plant or the animal gets the full spectrum of rays. Even though they can grow under a regular fluorescent light, this is a broader spectrum for them. And
using lights, growing under lights helps prevent the seedlings from stretching.
Oh.
Yeah, as well. So you can control you can raise the lights up and down. There's little chains. It's kind of hard to see in the photos, but you can pull the light away as they start to grow taller, but you can have the lights closer so they're not stretching so much. Whereas sometimes if you put them in a windowsill, the seedlings will stretch towards the sun and get leggy.
Yeah. And also, if you have the lights too close, you can burn them. So we were able to, so it was a daily looking after our little friends down in the church basement.
Right.
Like having 1,000 pets.
Yeah.
So, Julia, do you want to speak to this?
These are some of the seedlings. I think that is calendula seeds on the left. Those are poppy seedlings in the middle, and then those are a type of Korean pepper, gochujang, on the right.
And Julia started the seeds in a flat bed, not in individual pots. And we up potted them, ran out of pots, so we used styrofoam cups hanging around in the church kitchen. But go ahead and tell them about the flat beds.
I just did them like that. I just felt like it was easier to start them off that way. Whether or not I would do that again, I'm not sure. We found it difficult to find small containers to start the seedlings in, especially once March came around and everything was closed. So this was sort of the best way to do it.
So once it got April, end of April, we every day I moved these trays out into that area of the garden, and every night I hauled them all back in because the temperatures were still down around 0 or 2, sometimes -2, -4. And the kale survived the winter in one of the raised beds, and Julia found underneath the kale plant this little nest of bunnies. Mom had
scared me. I was poking around and all of a sudden these bunnies popped out.
they're lucky they didn't get hit by her shovel. But yeah, so, and then once we started planting, at night I had to cover them up with a frost cloth because our temperatures, the first part of May, really dropped down quite a bit. Even during the day, they weren't that high. So you want something, plants won't grow, annuals, if it drops below 10 Celsius at night. So we try to keep them warm, and it seemed to work.
They didn't die.
They didn't die. So we did a lot of amending of the soil. What did we use, Julia?
Yeah, so I think the first 3 beds we did ourselves, and then the 4th bed we were lucky enough to have the first round of students be able to help, which was a nice relief to my back. But we used a compost mix that you ordered, and then a dry organic fertilizer. And I think that's it. And I just really turned all the beds.
We dug down a good foot, at least a foot, and to get out any weed roots, anything, any kind of roots, and to get the mix in there really well. And then during the summer, we fertilized with fish emulsion. We made compost tea out of manure and worm castings. We used another organic concentrate fertilizer and manure. So
Yeah, we
summer,
top dressed with manure at the beginning.
yeah. So the garden beds are fertilized weekly.
Wow.
With something organic. No Miracle Grow.
We really had to add a lot to the soil because it was pretty sandy. And since we hadn't really been in control of it, we didn't really know what was in there in terms of nutrients. So our goal was to add as much as we could.
I had ordered 5 yards of triple mix, which is soil, peat moss, and composted something, whatever they mix into it. And so the 5 yards, which is a big pile, went into these 4 beds.
It was a lot of shoveling.
Yeah, it was a lot of work just to prep the beds, but that's a very important thing to do. You can't grow unless you prep your beds really well.
It was a good mid-COVID workout.
Yeah. So Julia, do you want to talk about your plants here in the netting, the type of trellising that you did for your flowers?
Yep, so this was the first bed that we planted. You can see the first 3 pictures on the top row, sort of how they grew over time. That's cornflower, or sometimes known as bachelor button. And we also put in cabbages and peas in that bed as well. And what I did is I put in some horizontal netting so that helped the flowers to grow straight.
And we created these cages. You can see them in the top pictures on the right. So they're just materials we got from the dollar store, and you put them over top of your pea plants so that the rabbits don't eat them. And it was Diane's 95-year-old father who taught me this trick. So intergenerational. Julia, some of your flowers.
I'm just waiting for the slide to pop up. Oh, here we go. So I guess fast forward to spring and summer. The last photo was still from May. So the first photo here, we have zinnias, the Queen Line series. In the middle, there's edible flowers. And then the last photo is a mix.
So all the ones in the middle, you can add to your salad.
Yeah, so there's calendula, violets, bachelor buttons. You can't see it, but there is borage in that photo as well.
Or you can decorate the icing of a special cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all grown from seed, except the borage, which just popped up in the garden. Yeah.
Have you ever tried the calendula?
Yes, it doesn't really taste like much.
They're quite resinous, the plants. I wondered if there would be a strong flavor in the flower.
A little bit. We've tried some, but we haven't done anything with it yet. I've also used it in cut flower arrangements.
I like the nasturtium myself. And the violets. Okay. Julia, do you want to do this one?
Yep, so in the middle we have more of the bachelor buttons in different colors. The blue tends to be a very popular color. But I have a mix. And then we also have our sunflowers and straw flowers. And on the right hand side, we have student volunteers from McMaster. That was the day, Ellen, you came to pick up flowers to get delivered.
Right.
And to me, the picture on the far left does not look real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so stunning, but that's real. And we usually held the flower arrangements up against the church door, the black door, because it made such a good background. So
It does, yes.
yeah, so they're really beautiful.
What are the red
Okay,
flowers?
That's a
we're going
pro-cut
to,
plum sunflower.
Mm.
Those are straw flowers.
Straw flower, the little ones.
Yeah, yeah.
and tick seed. Some tick seed.
Coreopsis.
Coreopsis, yeah, whatever. She's a flower grower.
The reason I chose pro-cut plum sunflowers is because they don't have the same, they don't leave the same mess as sometimes as the branching flowers do. They don't drop pollen, which sometimes when you have a flower arrangement, just imagine you have it on a nice white tablecloth and all that pollen drops off. So they're grown specifically for cut flower farmers so that they don't drop pollen. Unfortunately, they're just a one cut flower. So once you cut it, that's it. So we've been planting seeds throughout the garden every few weeks so that we have a continual harvest of sunflowers. We've had I think it's been 2 weeks since our last sunflower, but it looks like there's a good patch out there about to open. But that's with some flowers you have to keep doing that succession sowing so that you get that continual harvest. And sunflowers is a good example of one of those plants. We planted those directly into the grounds. Those very easy to grow. And they come in very beautiful colors. Sometimes they're very dark reds. There was like a lemony white one that we grew as well. But those are, they're really easy to grow. Just have to keep every 2 weeks, put down a new package of seeds if you want to keep having sunflowers all summer. And I also did the netting on that as well to give them support so they didn't bend over or fall over. So this photo, we have sweet peas. We grew some sweet peas. Those were a bit challenging, I would say, in terms of the seedlings got eaten a few times and pulled out. So they were they needed a lot of babysitting and a lot of water. For some reason, the blue ones didn't do so well, which was a little disappointing. But this is from the Royal Mix. I think we just bought these seeds from Fortino's or someplace. I ordered some from England, and those didn't do so well. So the middle are the tulips that come up in the front of the garden each year, and then the breadseed poppy on the right.
That one poppy at the front there is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very bright red. It's very incredible.
So these are folks that have received flower bouquets. We've probably done about 60 of them over the course of the summer. And then the fellow in the middle is from Hamilton Jewish Family Services. And that's the first couple of bags that harvesting started. So it's, I was really happy with Julia's idea for giving people flowers.
Oh yes, it's very wonderful.
Did you want to say anything, Julia, about these, or?
No.
Okay, I'll go on.
People did comment to me for the ones we distributed within Hamilton Aging and Community about how unique there were unique flowers in each bouquet that people weren't used to seeing.
And I heard back from people as well, which was very nice. Some people left messages.
Right.
So here are our first two students that started mid-May, and our first little harvest that we did. And right now we've probably handed out about 550 to 600 pounds of produce from the garden. So it started small, and then everything came on great guns, and still going great guns. So, and Julia's what kind of peppers are those, Julia?
Gochujang.
They're hot, eh?
You dehydrate them and make them into a paste. But I did have a taste of the jalapeno pepper that is out in the garden. I think we just got one jalapeno plant, and it is I had the tiniest bite, and my lips were on fire. and some ghost peppers and stuff. Yeah. Okay, we'll carry on. Here, Julia, you can. Well, on the right is Sarah and Norman's grandson. Now he is 6 foot tall. This was taken last year, and that was a 10 to 12 foot sunflower.
Wow.
On the right. So Julia, tell us what else is growing there.
So on the left, that is a photo that I took of the permaculture teaching garden. I believe that was in mid-July. You can see the echinacea.
Onions.
Growing
peppers.
Quite well. Onions, the elderflower tree in the background, cucumbers. And in the middle, those are some cucamelons, or Mexican gherkins, as they're called. They look like mini watermelons. They're about 1 inch in length, but they taste like a cucumber, but a citrusy cucumber. So this is something I've grown before in Los Angeles, and it's really popular, especially in children's gardens, because it's an easy item for them to pick and easy for them to munch on. So I think it was Diane that was putting in her request for this earlier in the year, and it's something all the chefs go crazy for this this little cucumber, but I think you've done some pickling of them here, or you've just been, I'm not sure what we've been doing with them here at the church, but
Jordan did some pickling and we've been eating them.
yeah. So they're super tiny. We didn't
get a lot.
We didn't get a lot. So
Maybe
some of the plants
one
haven't
pint.
produced. Yeah.
So, on the left is a type of lettuce. We're on our second growing of lettuce. So we harvested it all, took it off to neighbor. And then in the middle is two different types of zucchini. And is that the avocado squash, Julia? Or is that the Italian?
That's the Italian.
Yeah, so 3 different kinds of summer squash. And then Toby with the strawberries on the right there. So lots of people have been to the garden. We weren't able to do all of our programming. So down in the bottom left is a group from Steps to Health, which is a Good Shepherd group. And that's a cucuzzi squash that we grew a couple of years ago. And it was about 6 feet long. And above them are our second duo of students who are currently working now. Fatima finishes up the end of next week, and Eve finishes up the week after that. And then there's Miguel. He's a member of the congregation and comes every week to volunteer. And a picture of Juliah, since she's our big volunteer flower grower. And where was that picture taken, Juliah?
Oh, that was in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago now, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. One thing I wanted to add about the flowers is a comment that I keep hearing is how much the flowers remind people of the flowers they grew up with. Or flowers that remind them of their childhood, something that maybe a relative grew. But everybody that I've spoken to personally has said, these flowers remind me of flowers I knew as a child.
Right.
Especially the sweet pea. Yeah. So one of the things we did was we put in we had children actually build the birdhouse fence on the right there. And that's Liam helping himself to cherry tomatoes this summer. He has since cut off all his hair. His hair was almost down to his waist, and he's woke up one morning in July and said he wanted his hair cut, so now he's got short hair. So first haircut, almost 7 years old. So some more shots of the permaculture teaching garden. If you remember all those roles, and wondering if anything was going to grow. And there on the bottom left is the hedge. You can see the woven branches during the winter, when the branches fall. But I'm going to see if this little video here will work. Julia cuts the hedge. So here we go. See if this... what happened to my mouse?
So it's happening, but kind of slow.
Oh, okay.
It took me maybe, how long, an hour?
Yeah. I used to make people cut it with shears because I hate the noise of the hedge trimmer, but Julian convinced me to hedge trim. So anyway, she's
I know is a big
that.
no-no, but
what can you do?
There's lots to do.
So what kind of tomatoes are these, Julia?
I think those are the green zebra tomatoes.
Yeah, they turn a little bit more yellow, orangey.
But when you cut them, they're green inside.
Yeah, they're very tasty. some more of the harvest. So like I said, we've done 550 plus pounds of produce for the food banks, the Syrian family, different folks. Some red beets on the left and red onions on the right.
Nice.
In front of
Wow.
our famous door. But yeah, so we're on our second sowing of beets, carrots, radishes, kale, lettuce. So we're hoping to get 2 sowings in, which would be pretty good. Brussels sprouts. A lot of people don't know how Brussels sprouts grow. So here's how they grow, up a long stem, tall stem.
They kind
And
of
of course,
turn
Toby
into,
loves those.
they look like trees from another planet.
Yes.
I just saw a question pop up asking, how do we water?
Oh, well, there's been no
By
rain.
hand.
By hand. Yeah, so with a hose. And there's been no water to collect anything in rain barrels. So when we can collect, we do that, but those go very quickly, and then we have to use a hose. Now, the permaculture teaching garden doesn't need rain as often, only if you're putting seedlings in. But most of the perennials require very little water over the course of the summer. But yeah, we have to, otherwise everything would be dead out there. Raised beds are great because they warm up quickly, but they also dry out extremely fast. So you're better to grow in the ground. You don't have to water as much. But we inherited those raised beds from Hamilton Victory Gardens, and that's how they grow. So we're just doing that this summer for growing. They actually require a lot of watering. The back 4 beds take about close to an hour to water. So we did get some rain last night, which helped a lot. So
and we've put down some straw as mulch, especially in the beginning, around the peppers and a few other plants, the sweet peas, just to help preserve moisture.
Yeah. And the permaculture garden has a lot of mulch on it. So yeah, it all depends where you're growing, but the raised beds are great for warming up in the spring, but they really dry out fast. So we harvested about 40 or 50 pints of raspberries from the garden. These are all from our garden, blackberries and currants, tons of currants. So that was a good year for them. And there's Diane and her pantry. So the middle row was raspberry jam from this year, and bread and butter pickles and dill pickles from this year as well. So I figure she's probably canned at least 600, I would say, jars over the past 4 years, and probably even more. This is the meditation garden at the front of the church, which gets used every single day. It's a great place to sit. When Juliah comes, we usually cook some food or order in and sit outside and eat. It's quite nice. Okay, here's another video. This is a video Juliah took of the permaculture teaching garden. No, the meditation garden.
Yeah,
So I'll just let you have meditation garden. I'll let you have a look at it. Did you see that? Did that work?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then there's one more. Let me show it to you here. Oh, no. Here we go. Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful, eh?
So few butterflies this year.
We have had a resident monarch. One single monarch comes to our garden every single year well, since we put in the permaculture teaching garden. Only one shows up every year, but that's it. Lots of birds, all different kinds of birds, but one monarch.
Oh.
I've had good monarchs this year and also a ton of swallowtails. That's been wonderful.
Oh,
Though
good.
I
Yeah.
planted specific stuff for them.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, and I think our last slide. No. There. So if you think back to what the first slide looked like, 1990s, Grace and Julia took this photo this afternoon. We were growing things up, the trellises, but this year the squash didn't turn out at all. So unfortunately, they still have that monster there, the A-frame without anything growing up. But to the left is a teepee garden with green beans and marigolds, and Toby and I sitting on the front steps,
Right.
or the steps to the hall. So it's changed up a little bit. In the last,
It was all lawn
15 years,
originally.
so. Yes.
Bare lawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of lawn out there.
Right.
And if we hadn't sold and if we were going to be here, I'd do something with it.
It's a waste to see good soil just serving a lawn.
It's not good soil.
Oh.
Most of the topsoil in this area blew away. They estimate, like if you were to drive down London Way or Simcoe Way, where there's a lot of farms, that we've lost about 6 feet of topsoil in the last 150 years. So what is here is 26 feet of clay. I've had to cart clay away by the ton, literally, and bring in triple mix by the ton in order to grow anything. And some things just won't grow because I can't get the soil mixture right. But we're sitting on 26 feet of clay. And of course, Hamilton is renowned for its red clay bricks. So, but you can't farm on this. Right. That's why they had to put the raised beds in the back, because you just couldn't grow anything back there. So anyway, that's it.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, yes. As I said, it's really lovely to sit back and watch the garden grow.
Well,
background is. How do you know what you know?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I went to school for well, my mom taught me some stuff, which I was somewhat resistant to as a child, but I ended up going to school at UCLA Extension for horticulture, and I got a certificate in horticulture and gardening. And then I worked as a cut flower grower and vegetable grower in Los Angeles for 2 years, I think. And then I traveled to Tasmania and New Zealand, where I learned more about cut flower growing and experimenting with vegetables.
Okay, good one. Yeah. That was really interesting and beautiful photos.
Thank you.